I only caught half that. What'd you say there?
We're going to go ahead and get started.
Sounds good.
Uh, so it is 9:45 on Tuesday, June 9th, and the Board of County Commissioners is convened. Let the record reflect we've got Commissioner Kearns and French present. Commissioner Cooney is in transit. And then we were also joined by Tony Hall, Gil, and the rest of our senior management team, as well as Ron Valencia. So the conversation this morning is an ongoing conversation with regard to PP&Es, and I know that Tony and Gil have been doing an awful lot of work on this. Thank you to both of you for all of the work you've been doing. I know that it's been not in your job description and clearly something to help us move forward in the community. So thanks a lot for your work and stuff. So go ahead and give us an update. We did get a presentation from Cindy Wendell yesterday, and so she gave a package to the board that I think you guys have seen and stuff. So the floor is yours. You're the one you want to lead out.
Tony, you want to start with PPE?
Yep, I can pull up my spreadsheet over on this end. Just one second. I'm disabled for sharing.
You don't have to get them.
Okay.
I just wanted to
Now,
wanted to know they were.
There we go. Thank you. All right, so this is the spreadsheet I have started so far, and it should jive with Cindy's presentation, other than I believe she had a couple different proposals on the masks. So right now, the best pricing we could find on the hand sanitizer was through a local company out in Cheney that had it for 15 cents a gallon, and that was sold by the gallon jug, which is a huge cost savings. I did a national bid for hand sanitizer, and it was $15 a gallon for 275 gallon totes that we would then have to have the manpower to fill, have the containers to fill them with. So that's a really good price on that one. Gloves for 2 million of those were at right around $150,000 with tax and freight. And then the mask, this is kind of our point of contention here. Do we go with the 3-ply disposable, or is the cloth going to be our option going forward? Do we have some sort of a Spokane slogan printed on these? That's kind of the only non-concrete part of this breakdown. And then the rest of the plexiglass is a really easy procurement, just sheets of plexiglass in 2 different thicknesses for whatever size a company may need.
So on the mask, Tony, we could actually, I mean, that's great pricing. I mean, I think the last pricing I saw from you was like 43 cents a mask, and now it's down to 31. Great job. But we could do the disposable mask and still on top of that do the fabric mask in addition to that, because obviously we're going to need a ton of these things to get through.
Oh yeah.
You know, not only ourselves but through the rest of the year. So, so what you got there doesn't preclude that from happening, right?
No, not at all. It's just it would actually be preferred to go that route. We could get the disposable masks in as soon as possible, and then you can see on the bottom of the spreadsheet I have kind of the cloth mask set up with the embroidery, if that's somewhere we wanted to go. But yeah, this is totally attainable here.
Okay, Josh, you had a comment?
So what is the who's the end user of these products in our mind at this price? You know, the $977,000. What's sort of our vision of who is going to use these? Are these for use at the courthouse for our employees as well as folks that come in? Are any of these going to be distributed to the public? What's the use of these items?
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tony, I think is this in it, right, from your perspective, is this in addition to what Cindy had presented to us yesterday? Or is this just the detail of what Cindy presented to us yesterday?
This is just the fine print of what Cindy presented yesterday. So I believe that this is for, we already placed an order for our internal county needs here.
Right.
Okay, and
Yeah, that
okay,
was the,
They did
That was-
that last week.
yeah, that was the
Okay.
600,000 that we got last week, Josh.
okay. Well, because I was just gonna say these numbers don't jive with what Cindy was showing us yesterday. Hers were, I think hers was substantially more than this, wasn't it?
Well, and I think the difference is that she had, as part of her package, more of the cloth mask
Okay,
in her mix-up or her,
Okay.
her makeup, where this doesn't. This got the cloth mask pulled out separately down below.
okay. So one
And
of
I
the
think
things I wanted to ask, does this, what we were reminded of this morning during our 8 a.m. call, does that change sort of what we want to buy if the state is going to be sending over essentially 300,000 cloth masks for everybody, that's 200% of the federal poverty level? Do we need to buy this many masks if a huge portion of our population is going to be given to reusable masks from the state?
Well, and so when you look at the numbers that Cindy presented to us yesterday, those numbers were per month. And so if you project that out for 3 months, and including everything that she was talking about in terms of the 15 or 50 employees less, and everything, the smaller companies and stuff, she was at about 3.2 million per month. So that's 10.6 million over 3 months. And so this inventory here, based upon these numbers, is going to get us through basically 1 month, kind of a deal. The number is less, but I think part of the reason is the cloth mask is part of it. But you're right, there's some other things that are something else that's different too in this, and I'm not sure what it is.
But at
So I
the same
think
time,
She was also marching to 10,500 gallons of hand sanitizer, so that also may be throwing it off. I just stuck with the 10,000 that I was originally given.
Okay.
but like in my mind, a cloth mask is gonna last a long time. I mean, I've got one that my wife made me at the start of this. I mean, almost 3 months ago, and I mean it's gone through the washing machine multiple times. It's fine. It's not breaking down. I mean, I don't know, like I kind of view a cloth mask as something that lasts. So I mean that's sort of a one-time expense if we do that. But if if there's 300,000 cloth masks that are coming into our community, it's like I mean, a lot of that depends on, do people actually bring them with them? Do people, wear it, and actually keep it handy when they show up here at the at the courthouse, or if they're going out to these businesses with them? But it's like, I would think that would really drive down the need for the disposable masks if, essentially a quarter of our population at least has these, has a reusable mask on hand.
So what would you like to do? Would you like to reduce the number on the disposable mask?
Well, I mean, do you think? I mean, am I off base thinking that? I mean, am I dreaming, thinking that that people are going to have them with them? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the state is sending over that many reusable fabric masks. I would think that would bring down the need for us to purchase other masks here locally. But I mean, I could be off. I mean, I could be way off on that.
Well, the other thing too is that this is designed to basically meet the needs of our businesses.
Mhm.
And so the 300,000 that are coming from the state very well could end up in the hands of those that aren't back to work yet, or have no intention of going back to work. I don't know. I don't know what the governor or the state is going to do with regard to the distribution of that. But this is all targeted for businesses. So that would be the only difference that I could think of. But, you know, if we wanted to adjust these numbers, I mean, it's our best guess as to what we want to do. So, what Tony and Gil have done has gotten us some great pricing. I mean, this is outstanding pricing.
Oh,
So,
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so now it's just a matter of what kind of mix do we want in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jerry.
You know, one of the things that came up, and of course, we didn't know that the state was going to ship those masks, but Josh, do you remember that it was said it's for the folks that are at a certain level of poverty, but they're not going to deny anybody?
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking of, it sounds like there's a lot of masks, but we don't know, for instance, what if the schools decide to open, but part of that is all the kids have to wear a mask? Mm-hmm. Well, there goes another couple 100,000 in one swoop. Or, you know, I don't think that, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. What was the order that we did for our own people?
600,000.
60,000, I think.
60,000?
No, so it was 6,000 cloth masks.
6,000
and 20,000 disposable.
Okay, so that should take care of us at the county. So the rest of these, what we're looking at and stuff, would go to the community.
That'll take care of us for how long?
Well, hopefully everybody gets 2 masks. My point is, I'm not sure that this is an outlandish figure of masks, given we don't know how they're going to distribute the ones from the state or what the usage are. I've been thinking about this thing about the kids going back to school, because it's going to be an enormous pressure on them to, you know, get these kids back to school, and we're falling behind. And if they, like I say, if they all have to wear masks, then I'm figuring the state would say, well, we sent you 300,000 school districts, use us.
Well, but also now I don't think that worked for the school districts, because I mean, kids go to school, and my guess is they're sending 300 adult size masks. So I mean, you can give a first, second, third grader an adult size mask. It's not going to fit them.
That's true.
So I don't think this would. I don't think the intent or the thought would be that this would work for kids, because they'd be too big.
Junior high school kids probably. So
yeah, but
colleges.
So I'm going back to Cindy's presentation yesterday, and they were projecting, if we went to the larger scale of businesses, they were projecting 1.5 million disposable mask would be used per month. And that was on top of 63,000 cloth mask. No, 125,000 cloth masks. So, you know, the other thing is, this would just get us through 1 month. So yeah. Even if we end up long in the initial order, it just means we adjust in the second and third order. We're probably going to have multiple orders as we kind of adjust to whatever the need is. So, I mean, this is really kind of more of a starting point, and as opposed to the total package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, if we overbuy, I mean, we can store them, we can use. I mean, they will get used eventually. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's not like we have to get rid of them, like they don't have a shelf life, you know, or something like that. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm comfortable with making the purchase. I don't know if I don't know. I still wonder what impact it's going to be with the amount of people that don't just have a cloth masks already, and then when you drive that with the people that, you know, when you go out to these stores, will not put a mask on. I mean, so but I mean, we'll get I mean, they will get used.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
You know, even if we get through COVID and we don't use them, I mean, we can use them come fire season, which unfortunately has become a regular occurrence for us. So,
I guess, sorry, I'm coming late to the conversation here. So how does this tie in with what Cindy's presentation is doing? And I guess where are these cloth masks coming from? Because I know she was tasked, I think by you, Al, to try to source them locally. And so where are these masks coming from?
So Tony's got 2 suppliers on the spreadsheet there. You want to talk about that, Tony?
Yeah, so if we buy in this big of a bulk for disposable masks, there's really only one company I could find that could fill that order, and that's a company out of California that does their manufacturing from China.
So, but Mary was asking about the cloth mask.
Oh, yeah, so the cloth mask, we would order a bulk amount in, and then a local company, Zome Apparel, would be the ones that would tag the signage on these if we wanted to. I got some preliminary pricing. I'm sure it's very similar to what Cindy has. It's about $4 to $5 a mask if we buy them locally for cloth masks.
Okay, and then we're not going to put logos on them though, right?
It was, yeah, just a thought, just a line item to consider.
Okay, so looking at this spreadsheet, this is the first time I'm looking at it. So you've got the cloth mask down here. So the per unit cost is not 0.07.
0.7.
Or 0.7, sorry.
0.7, yeah. So there's 70 cents a piece from the company out of California.
Okay, I guess, sorry, I'm confused. So line 11 is the cloth masks that you're able to purchase at 70 cents per mask.
For around 200,000 to 300,000, yeah.
And that's coming out of California?
Yep.
And then if people chose to put a logo on it, then you've got that sourced through Zome Apparel at 75 cents a mask?
Correct.
So I'm not going to be, that would be a company decision. That would not be an us decision to put a logo on a mask because I don't think that's a good use of our dollars, is to advertise for businesses. That would be a business decision for a business to choose to do because at 75 cents a mask, that's probably if you're doing it in bulk. And different businesses are going to want their own logos, which would not necessarily be in bulk. And so, that's an issue that just looking at this initially. And then again, trying to figure out how are we partnering with GSI and their task force, or are we just choosing to do this on our own and we're not doing GSIs?
No, Cindy has been working with Tony and Gil last week to generate numbers. So what Tony is doing here is showing us the breakdown on how the numbers work from his perspective. Keep in mind that Cindy yesterday said they can resource the cloth mask locally, but they're going to be more expensive than what we could buy by going through Tony and his suppliers. So that's a decision, a policy decision from our standpoint. Do we want to keep the manufacturing of the cloth mask here locally and pay a premium for them? We can do that, and I think that's what Cindy priced. Or if we're going to be price conscious, do we buy it out of California and get a cheaper price for it? So, but other than that, the other pricing that Tony has here, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, is the pricing that Cindy was using in her presentation yesterday.
Everything but the mask.
Yeah, everything but the mask.
Yeah. The cloth mask.
The cloth mask, yeah.
Okay. I guess partly I would need to meld those two presentations together to make sure that we're, where we're at. I'm for supporting, this. Her numbers were 2.5, but that was paying the premium for the mask versus what this is. And so I just need to try to meld those two together. And so that way it's having Tony and Cindy and us all in the same room saying, okay, this is what we're going to agree to, and how, you know, because then we got to determine how we're going to distribute it too. I mean, I want to make sure that we've got, you know, that figured out as well. And we get this done, because we need to get it done quickly.
Well, and so if we're resourcing, so let's take the cloth mask out of the conversation. All of the rest of this stuff is, I mean, that's great pricing. And that's also part of what Cindy was trying to communicate and stuff. So even if we just move forward on the top part of that spreadsheet so that we can start getting these masks in the community, because if we want to go to phase 3 or any type of expansion, we know that we're going to need even the disposable mask. And again, this is for 1 month. This is not the whole package. This is 1 month and stuff. So we will go through this in very quick order, and we still have the rest of the summer to go through. So I'm not as concerned about overbuying as much as I am, let's get the product here so that we've got something to work with. Otherwise, we could be delaying ourselves in terms of opening back up and stuff. So, and by the time this product gets here, I'm pretty comfortable that Cindy and the group can handle the distribution side of this thing and put that in place. But these things are lead items and stuff. So that's just my perspective on it.
Yeah, so the plexiglass, because we haven't talked about the plexiglass yet. So those are sheets. So who's cutting those, and how's that all working?
Well, so we'll provide the raw product, and each restaurant or each business that needs plexiglass will provide the plexiglass for them, and they'll do the mock-ups themselves, because there's no way that we could provide a template and manufacture those ourselves for the whole variety of different businesses that are out there. But this,
so we're just getting to 500 or 1,000 businesses, because the unit is 500 units. So
How big is the sheet?
business is sheet.
4x8 sheet.
That's a pretty big sheet.
Yeah. 4 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah.
Correct.
Just like a sheet of plywood.
Right.
You cut those up quite a few out of one
Yeah.
sheet.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, like I said, I think I just want to make sure we're melding these together, and I'm in favor of getting stuff purchased fairly quickly, but I want to see kind of the two spreadsheets kind of melded together and kind of how, again, it's the distribution side. I think part of the philosophical discussion we have to have too is how long are we really going to be providing this to the businesses? I'm not sure that I feel that we need to provide it to the businesses for the rest of the year. So, I mean, I at least want to get them through it, get an initial order, see what's really happening, what people really need, and go from there. Because a lot of the business, I mean, I've gone, trying to eat out here. Everybody already has masks that are out, that are out there. Like I said, I know a lot of companies that have already opened up, that have been open. I mean, they're already sourcing all their stuff already. So it's going to be interesting to see what the true need is, for people to get, get more out there. And then, as we talked about what the governor's doing, that's to get out to, basically low-income individuals. So I don't know that they're going to be bringing those to work, or not. Those people may not. So I would just keep the governor's masks out of our equation, because we're trying to get this to businesses.
So the recommendation from Cindy yesterday was these quantities they've identified through their work group and for a 3-month period. So if that gets us basically through the summer months, and then hopefully we're out of this before we go back to school. But if we go back to school, then we've got a resurgence. But that's why I was saying, that getting an order here is not going to get us through the summer. We've still got, based upon the numbers out of GSI, even if we just did 2 months of this, we're still only 2/3 of their total request.
Right, but that's for 15,000 businesses. And again, not all those businesses are going to need this because a lot of them have already sourced it. So, I mean, I think that's saying that's what the global population is. I think the reality is not all of those businesses are going to be coming to say we want masks because a lot of them have already sourced it. So so that's why I think it's going to be interesting to see how, how much is going to get used, and then we can always reorder if we need to. But that's, from the GSI perspective, that was 15,000 businesses that are, 19 employees or less. And again, not all those people are going to be coming to pick up, supplies.
So if we're not relying on the numbers from GSI, what metric do you want to rely on to be able to make a decision?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a global population. And the reality is probably we're not going to see everybody, but we are providing for that global population. It's just the reality of it is going to be different than the theory of it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So we can break this out into 2 separate conversations. The top part of the spreadsheet with regard to sanitizer, gloves, mask, and plexiglass, that's consistent with some of the initial information we've got from Cindy and GSI.
Mm-hmm.
It is less than what we're going to need through a 3-month period. So if the number, the universe is not 15,000, let's say it's 7,000, half of what she's projecting, it's still going to be less than what they projected their need to be. So we could go through an initial distribution, get a hard number out of that, and then structure a second order based upon how many companies actually use the product.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that as a strategy?
I think that's just fine. I think we just need to see kind of how this starts to go, and when it starts to get low, we're going to know when we need to reorder.
Yeah.
So Commissioner French, one more time. So what one more time on quantities then, how this would be adjusted from what we're looking at on the screen?
Well, I'm not suggesting it would be adjusted at all.
Okay.
That inventory of product is consistent with what Cindy had shown us yesterday.
Correct.
For the top part of the screen. And so if we were to go ahead and authorize Tony to make a purchase of everything on the top part of that schedule, then see what the distribution is, how many companies actually take advantage of it, and then we can come back and make a second order based upon what we learned out of the distribution on the first. So,
okay.
we over-ordered on masks. It just means we got masks to last through the rest of the year. If we under-order on sanitizer, it means we got to get more sanitizer.
Okay.
But at least we've got a benchmark to work off of.
But you want to start with no cloth masks at all?
No, what I'm suggesting is let's have that for a separate conversation.
Okay.
Because that's got greater variability. We've got the difference between 70 cents a mask or $350 a mask, I think is the price that they had in there for the cloth mask.
Right.
No, I'm wrong, $450. So
Glenn, I think we need to, do we have a sample of these masks, Tony?
They will be in, I believe, this coming Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, because that was part of the issue that I know Cindy was looking at, because I know I talked to her about, what AGC was getting in for masks, and it's, part of it's a different thickness of fabric, and so if you have those specifications that you could send to Cindy, that would be good too, just so we know, because if it's a fabric, same, thickness of fabric and all of that, then I mean, I can't see, spending, 4 times as much, when we really, we need to be good stewards of this money.
So Cindy
Exactly.
left
And that was
with
our
us.
plan.
Cindy left with us
Go ahead,
yesterday samples of the mask that they would be getting for the $4.50 a price mask. That's what
Right,
she
that's
left
why,
with us
that's why I
yesterday.
was asking Tony if he had his already so we could compare the two.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
I'm
so early
comfortable.
next week,
I'm comfortable with moving forward on the top half of the, the top half of the chart there. I mean, I think those are all important purchases, and I'd support it.
Would you be okay, Mary, moving forward with the top part of the spreadsheet?
I think so. I just would, let's see if we can talk to Cindy over the lunch hour and just get this, see, again, I don't have her spreadsheet right in front of me to see what the two did. So I'm happy to, after our 2 o'clock, to have this discussion and then move forward.
Okay, so do you want to have a conversation with Cindy about the top part of the schedule or the
Correct.
maps?
The top part, just to make sure that that's in alignment with what they had on theirs. I just want to meld the two together to make sure seeing everything as a whole.
Okay,
So do you have Cindy's in front of you?
yeah, got it right here. So
So how much hand sanitizer were they saying?
they had 15,000 gallons at $25 for a price of $375,000.
Okay, so just,
What?
so someone's moving the changing the spreadsheet numbers.
Sorry, that was me.
Okay,
I'll leave it the way it is.
okay. So you have 10,000 units is what you were looking to purchase?
Correct.
Okay, so maybe, can you just add a column that then has what your units versus what Cindy had for her units? Since you can manipulate the spreadsheet there, Tony? Thank you. Are you getting the gallons cheaper than Cindy was? Because I know she was talking about the Cheney company for the hand sanitizer.
Well, and so Tony was able to get a cheaper price on that using Cheney. Cindy was using Dry Fly. Tony used Cheney, and he's got it for $15 a gallon.
There
And
was something that
Cindy
she
was
thought,
pricing it at 25.
right, there was something that she thought the quality was different between the Cheney one and Dry Fly.
Now,
And
both of them were 80% alcohol. Both of them met the CDC standards.
Right, but as you know, when we've been out the training center, I mean, some of them are more liquid than a little more gel. So I don't know. Didn't talk about, but I knew that there was a difference in quality. They were both at the 80%. I knew that, but I would have.
Based on my conversation that I had with Cindy, I believe the one in Cheney is the higher quality, is what she was alluding to.
Yeah.
Was that okay? See, I thought it was Dry Fly was the higher quality. So okay.
So
I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure she was saying it was the other way around.
I think you're right, Josh. So then on total units there, Tony, so you got 15,000 units, and at $15 a gallon, you end up with a different price than the 163, don't you? Because you got to carry that over as a cost.
Almost there, sorry. $15,000 times 25.
That's what she had, but she came up with the number of 375,000. Or no, 410,000 is the number she came up with. I don't know how she got up to that.
There we go. 375,000 plus tax.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so then on the gloves, how many did she have for quantities?
She had 7.5 million for gloves.
And then what does she have the pricing at, Al?
5 cents.
Yeah, see, that doesn't,
Yeah, it's quite a bit more than what we had for gloves.
Yeah, her math is wrong.
yeah.
Yeah, so her math in her spreadsheet is wrong. So, wait a minute.
So Tony, have you and Cindy, have you guys talked through some of this or not?
Yes, we've talked through it, and I've provided her this spreadsheet.
Okay.
And to
Now,
address your concern
Tony?
about the demand, we've also talked about doing some sort of a survey after we get these on order to see what the real demand is.
Okay.
Tony, your math is wrong, Tony. You
On
don't
which one?
have 7.5 million, you got 75 million. Go to 7.5 million. Get rid of a zero. There you go. So that matches up with what she had. It's amazing what a zero would do.
It is. Zeros are decimal points, you know, they make a difference.
Yeah.
There we go.
And then, what was the other thing?
So, because she didn't have plexiglass on hers.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she
She
does.
did? Okay, and so then disposable masks?
She had $250,000 for bulk plexiglass, and Tony's got it for basically 110,000.
Mhm.
So we're significantly under what she had. And then,
So Mary, if you go into your email, Cindy sent us an updated spreadsheet last night at 5:51. It's in the body of the email. So if you just open it and scroll down, Cindy sent it last night.
so in terms of disposable face cover, she was 1.5 million, and we've got 2 million. But, but she was significantly higher in price. She's at 40 cents.
Yep.
Tony's got it for 31 cents or something. So, this is what one of the reasons why I was wanting to have Tony reach out, because obviously what you can see is the buying power of the county versus GSI and stuff. The pricing that Tony's got here is just outstanding.
Oh, no, it's great. So, I think, we probably want to do that. I just don't want to surprise her, and say, oh, we purchased all this. I would just I think we need to have a little bit of that conversation. Okay, so I'm just printing this so then I can get back.
So on the mask, Tony, she has 1.5 million down there on her, yeah, right there, the 1.5 million at 40 cents a piece. One more zero. One less zero.
Can't get it right today. There we go.
At
And then
40
what's she have the
cents.
price at?
40 cents. Get you 600,000. You've got 2 million masks at 625.
Yep.
You do a hell of a job, Tony.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
One other thing that I just wanted to throw in real quick.
Yeah.
I'm still working out the detail of storing 10,000 gallons of hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple ideas on that and how we can break it down and maybe satellite it at some different locations.
Well, but the Genie operation is delivering it in gallon jugs already.
There's
Correct.
So there's a minimum of 5 gallons has to be an explosion-proof container. So
The
that's
alcohol.
exactly because of the alcohol
No,
content.
I'm aware of that.
So I just need to find out. So we do have access to a refrigerated storage container that we could potentially use. We have a couple different options there, but I need to discuss that with the manufacturer and how they're storing it.
So I mentioned this yesterday. We might also, I think that distributing a lot of this stuff, especially in the rural areas, doing it through the fire departments and the fire stations,
Yep.
they have designed in their facilities
Yep.
the ability to handle these kind of products. So
Yep.
it seems to me that, instead of originally we were talking about storing a bunch of the stuff at the fairgrounds,
Right.
store it at the fire stations.
Well, but if we can make distribution, simple, yeah, for the rural areas, I can see that, and do,
Real good for them.
but if we could do something, just locally at the fairgrounds, I think that'll be easiest, too, and figuring out, that hand sanitizer piece. So Tony, on the gloves, one question, looking at Cindy's thing, and it's actually true because I'm actually very latex sensitive. Are our gloves the latex free, or are they not, or?
They're nitrile.
Okay. Just because I know there's a lot of people that are latex sensitive or allergic, so and I don't know. Can't do it all though, so.
Tony, if you adjust your spreadsheet to reflect the volumes that Cindy had in hers, what does that give us for a new number? So if you go to your spreadsheet and do the 15,000 units there, on the
How many gloves did she have?
she had 7.5 million.
She had 5 boxes per business, it looked like, because they're 100 per box.
So 7,500.
No, 7,500,000.
7,500,000. You can just take the quantities. Yeah, 7.5 million.
Yeah, so it's got an extra. It's per 100 box, so that's gonna throw it off. There you go.
Right.
And then she had 1.5 million masks.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
So there's your total.
The gloves can have
yeah,
somehow.
the gloves you need to adjust the price on because you got it $6.50 for a box of 100. So you either you adjusted it in the quantity.
Yeah.
You need to take one more zero out of it then.
Yeah.
75,000, not 750,000.
Yeah. There we go.
Made a difference.
Okay. So now you've got apples and apples with what Cindy had. less the cloth mask.
Right, we'd have to take out from her total the cloth mask.
So 1.43 for Cindy's and Tony. What was your initial price for everything on there?
A little under a little under $1 million.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah, I think it was
977, 973. Okay,
Yep, somewhere around there.
all right.
So I think we just have to figure out, I mean, because you had a lower number than Cindy. So, I mean, I think it's, again, I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page between Tony and Cindy, and we just, then we'll be set to work.
So if that's Cindy's numbers, our pricing, new outcome, 1.4 million. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, where do we want to do on the cloth mask? Do we want to go for price, or do we want to go for local manufacturing?
Right, that's the question.
So I put it out there. That's a policy decision for us. I mean, we
Right.
talked about trying to keep the money local and stuff, but keeping it local on this, now it's going to cost us 5 times as much to keep the money local.
And the thought was, Mary, you brought up earlier about the signage. This wouldn't be each company's sign. This would be kind of a Spokane community logo. And that would keep some of the spend within our local community and, put our stamp on these masks.
At one time, we talked about a marketing campaign that said, "I love Spokane County," kind of a deal. And so if we had that on there, it's about marketing Spokane County. But that's just one idea.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not into spending extra money on a logo. The thing is the health of our community and get this out there. I'm not, because we're more than doubling the price to put a logo on. I think if the community saw that, they would not see that as a good use of these CARES dollars, where we could get to housing assistance or food service. It's just, there's so much more that it could be used for than just putting a logo. And to me, that seems self-serving at this point.
Just a logo. Oh, I don't know, 75 cents.
So what I hear you saying then, Mary, is that you want to buy the mask from California then?
Well,
Go to the price?
I'm not interested in putting a logo, spending 75 cents to put a logo on every mask. So that's what I'm saying. I think I think I'd rather purchase and not have it sourced locally. Maybe as we make additional, as we see what the needs are, and we may not be making such a order, then we could source it locally and spend a little bit more, because we'd be spending more if we're not making this big a purchase on cloth masks. But I think, I want to look at the best use of our dollars from the CARES funds. And so I would want to make sure that, so I think doing the cloth masks, sourcing it from California. I know the Washington Business Association, they're trying to source it from within Washington as well. They've got a whole thing set up on their system where people can buy within Washington. So we would just be choosing to go outside of Washington, and that's a choice we would make to save, $3 a mask, or more. So I just think that's, again, that much more money that we can either buy additional or get to the community. So I think we're, it's a value judgment, and I'd be willing to go through California.
Josh, your thoughts?
I think as long as the quality are comparable, I think we probably go with the ones out of California where we can get more, and provide a level of safety for more people in the community. But I am concerned based on what Cindy said yesterday, where she said she's looked at a lot of different masks, and she said some of them she didn't expect would hold up more than 2-3 times through the washing machine. So are you confident on the quality of those masks, Tony?
So let me just say, I don't want to purchase until we actually have that sample in hand to compare to the other samples.
So we could move
Yeah, and to
forward.
Mary's point, yeah.
We could,
To Mary's point, I'm not comfortable with it until we get them in person next week.
okay. But we can move forward with everything on the top part of the spreadsheet now, and then make a decision on Monday about the mask, the cloth mask, make that decision next week.
And as far as the disposable masks, we got to be closing in on, I think, 100,000 of these disposable masks from this company with no complaints so far. So I think we're fairly confident in that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the top part of the graph here: the sanitizer, the gloves, the disposable masks, and the plexiglass. At Tony's price, the price and quantities.
Right. And I think it's just, the numbers. So Tony, you had different units that you thought we needed right away versus Cindy's. And so I guess I'm just making sure we're all comfortable with Cindy's. So on the disposable masks, it does come in a box, right? Kind of like the gloves do.
Which ones?
On the disposable masks?
The price I'm getting is each.
But she was wondering, did they come in a box or did they come individually?
I believe they come in boxes of 100, but the way I have them priced is just each.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because so I would probably put them in a as kind of like the gloves, because they're going to be going to companies as a box. We're not going to be opening up the box because that would make it unsanitized. So let's put it in there as whatever unit it comes in, so that we know how many units we're getting out to people, just kind of like the gloves. But if it's how many boxes, so it's like 75,000 boxes is what we're getting for gloves. And so that way we know how many masks we're actually, boxes of masks, because again, it's a box that's going to go to a company.
Okay, I can easily get that changed.
Okay. So then back to the original question. Are we comfortable moving forward with the top part of the spreadsheet? And your number there, Tony, that doesn't include, or is that with, it is with sales tax and with freight. So the 1,430,000.
Yep.
That's all in. Okay.
Double. Yep.
Okay. So are we comfortable moving forward with at least that part of it?
Well, just to confirm, Commissioner French, are we buying with the current quantities that are listed on here, or the original quantities that Tony started with before making these alterations to this graph?
So what we did is we combined Cindy's quantities from yesterday with Tony's pricing to come up with the compromise of the package, and we're still significantly less than what Cindy had yesterday with her pricing.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to be sure that we're using the column G. Oh, well, now column H, that we're using that and not column E, or what is now becoming column G.
Well, I
thought column E you changed to make it Cindy's already.
Yeah,
It is.
Tony's already adjusted column E to match Cindy's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we making a purchase with column H's quantities or column E for quantity?
Column E quantities.
Okay, so we're going to use Cindy's quantities.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to be sure.
Yes.
All right.
I appreciate the clarity. Okay.
So Tony, can you, because I'm trying to get your tax and freight and all of that in there, just put that together, so we know for sure what this really is, and then.
Okay, here you go. Here's the difference between the two quantities. The total quantities, not box quantities or anything.
Okay, that's fine.
So column E and column G are the same quantities.
Except he's got 750,000 still in Cindy's column. We got that down to 75 in our column E.
Column E,
That's it's by boxes of
a
100.
box of 100.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah,
Thank
so-
you.
So we're apples and apples now. Cindy's numbers,
And our number.
Tony's pricing, 1.4 million, all in taxes and freight.
So I guess I'm gonna ask Tony to kind of look at that, because again, I want to see how many masks. So when we look at the mask, again, the disposable, that's a per box cost versus a per mask cost, because I want to know what that quantity. Oh, it's probably 15,000 is what that is. So it's one per business. I'm not sure your numbers are all accurate, Tony. I'm sorry, just because of us trying to mess around so much with them. So I just want to give you a chance to get them right.
And which part?
I guess it's because, so is your total price, again, I'm not seeing your formulas. So go on your total price so I can see the formula. So that's still H and F.
H and yes, correct.
So H is not the right quantities now, correct?
So H is,
So you had the 10,000, the 2 million, 2 million, 500, 500.
gotcha. This is just 15,000.
Right. I mean, you should just be able, your formula for I should be,
Yeah, just adjust the formula.
yeah, based on E, not H. You know what I mean?
Here, let's just do this.
And then just copy it down and
That's why I'm thinking, I mean, we can look at the spreadsheet this afternoon and make that decision. I'd rather have you make sure it's right. And so we're making a decision based on correct numbers.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, I can get a revised copy for you.
Yeah. That way you're not under pressure right now to make sure all those numbers are exactly right. I just,
Yeah.
we're clear. And I mean, I think we're all want to go there. It's like, I just want to make sure the spreadsheet's right. So we, and I'll let her know what's going on and that we're excited that we can meld the two together and make it happen.
So what I'll do is I'll create two different versions of this, one at our quantities and then one with Cindy's quantities, and then that way you guys can see the full the changes and the dollar amount changes.
Right. And then I think we, when you get the sample masks in, then we'll be able to make the decision, hopefully, we will make the decision, what the quality, is to make the decision on what those masks, purchase or cloth masks would be.
so if you can have that back to us, Tony, by 2 o'clock, then we can make a decision at our 2 o'clock legislative meeting and cut you loose.
Works for me. I'll get started on it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
your
Thanks
work.
for all your
Tony.
work.
Okay.
Yep, anytime.
Deborah Firkins, are you still with us or have you died and gone away? There you are. You got to unmute yourself.
We have Chad Coles here too.
Unmute yourself, Deborah. Deborah, there you go.
Deborah, were you going to have Jessica involved in any of this?
I'm
not
present.
Oh, yes.
Fine.
There.
Okay.
She's on the phone.
Jessica's.
Oh,
said she was
Jessica's
gonna be
listening
here.
on the phone. Is this executive session?
I believe
Um,
it is,
not.
isn't it, Deborah?
It could be.
No, it could not be.
I hear somebody saying it could not be.
It's probably Jessica.
It would be me.
Yep, there you go. It's an attorney. Yep.
Yep.
So,
Jessica's been working on this.
what's that?
Jessica's been the one working on this, so I'll defer to her.
Okay. All right, well then, if it's not executive session, then go ahead and
Let's go.
time is
Well,
yours.
our buyer has gone through, they don't like our deed restriction language that we put on there. They don't like it being in phases. So they sent us a long email describing what they were thinking of. And I don't know if I can show this on the screen or not. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this.
Can you forward the email to Mary and Josh?
Yeah, let me forward that email. I'll forward it to,
Just so you get a sense of what it was saying. It was well written. What they're saying is they really want to follow through with it, but their business plan won't support building all the commercial first. That's essentially
That they need to have some income.
Yeah, kind
They
of
need
what
to have some
you were thinking.
houses.
Yep. Yep.
It's not that complicated. Yeah.
But they wanted some latitude on the phasing.
Did they have some suggested language?
They said, yeah, kind of take it out.
Well, taking it out altogether doesn't get us anywhere.
Well, the phasing portion.
Oh, so they wanted to build it all at once?
No, they wanted, and here, I could, let me find the part where it talks about that.
Okay.
Sorry to read it.
Yeah.
Let's see, they go through their expectation of how they were gonna build it. That's this part right here. So it gives you a sense of how they intended to approach the project. Deborah, remind me, does it say that they want to just take out the phasing language, or did they have some other language they wanted?
What's
well,
the bottom line, Deborah?
the bottom line is that I talked to him this morning and I told them that life was, that we had to have some kind of hook in it that allowed us to be able to have that if they went belly up, that we still got our commercial. And so I told him, you know, we can't get rid of this phasing language because that's what protects us. So then he suggested possibly something like a transportation district language thing. And I told him, no, that probably put us under other RCWs that we didn't want to deal with. Plus that doesn't make money for us. It costs us money to manage it and to deal with that. I didn't like that idea. Then he said that this morning, he said that he would get his lawyers and his engineers to try to come up with some deed restriction language that, because I told him what we basically want them to build is something like Kendall Yards or like Meridian. That's what we're after. And we want to have some kind of guarantee that that's what's actually going to be built. And so he said that he would get his lawyers and his people to try to come up with some language that they found acceptable for the deed restriction and give it to me by Monday so that I could present it to you guys next Tuesday, if that was possible. I don't know what that language is going to contain, but I told them we need something that guarantees that you guys are building commercial along with your building of the residential so that we're not left holding the bag. And I'm hoping that that is acceptable until we actually see what they are writing. So that's where I'm at with that. Their letter was very well written, that they had written about what they were doing. I agree with that.
Deborah, what would happen if we took out the phasing requirements? Don't we have the underlying requirement that they have to build the percentages?
We do, but if they're an LLC, they go through, they build all the residential and they make their money, and then the LLC goes bankrupt, and then you only have the portion that wasn't commercial not built, and we might have a deed restriction on it, but now it's not built, and all that other stuff was done.
Get the property back, is that what would happen?
Nope, that's not part of what we've got in there. It's just got a deed restriction. So whoever comes through, it's got that deed restriction, then we'd have to go to court. At least that's my idea. We'd have to talk to the lawyers for sure exactly what would happen. But
Bless you.
Yeah, if they violate the deed restriction, then you got a civil action. You got to take them to court and enforce the civil action, and then you got to try and somehow come up with computation for damages. Is that right, Jessica?
That's assuming that the LLC is solvent.
Yeah. Yeah. If they're not solvent, then you got nothing.
But isn't that about the same issue with any sale to an LLC that you make?
Yeah.
That's long-term. There's no guarantee that they're ever going to be solvent.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so then all you're left with is the deed restriction, and then whoever's the subsequent purchaser of the land would have the same deed restriction. So ultimately, hopefully we'd get what we wanted anyhow.
So under that scenario that you just laid out there, Jessica, what's the drawback at removing the phasing language?
We don't have any timing language. So, I mean, technically the third phase could be indefinitely pushed out. I mean, maybe if we added some language in there that says, you know, you agree to develop it within X amount of years, that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
But otherwise, I don't see a drawback to removing the phasing.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem.
Yeah. Jessica, what would happen if you said, we had language in there that said we get rid of the phasing, but that if the developer had to have it fully developed within, let's say, 10-year period, and or make a payment to the county of $500,000.
You could certainly do that as liquidated damages for the lack of that, if they're willing to agree to it.
Of course, that still relies on them being solvent, so they can pay the $500,000.
Right.
They can basically run the LLC into the ground, have no money, and says it sucked to be you, county, and we won't get a dime out of it. So what would happen if we were to say, we get rid of the phasing, but says that we're going to have commercial within 10 years, or you're not going to be able to develop beyond 50% without meeting the threshold or a payment to the county.
And are you thinking, how would you enforce that though? An injunction?
Deed restriction. But then they won't be able to get permitted beyond 50%. So they're actually only going to be able to use 50% of the land until they can either meet the threshold for commercial or they pay us extra money.
Deborah, will that solve their problem though on the solvency and what they expressed on why they didn't want phasing?
Basically, I think that their objection is more that they've never seen anything like this. They think it's over the top. They just don't like it. And so I don't think that, because when I went through and I was talking to him, I go, you know, I was talking to John Tampion, and he told me that he had already had a grocery store that wants to be inside here. He already has a restaurant that wants to be part of this. So what is so hard for you guys to have your phasing to be 20% of this? Why is this such a burden? And basically he was going through and saying, well, you know, I just don't want to have to guarantee that we're going to be able to do this, because in order to make a restaurant or in order to make a grocery store work, you have to have enough density to be able to support that. And he says, you look across over and you see that Albertsons is dying across the street over there, and you see so many empty spaces. He goes, I just don't see where it can be held that you have where this would actually work without this density already built in. So they want to build up on the ridge first. First, they think that it's going to take them a year to go through and grade everything
Houses on the ridge.
and get everything going. So he says, we're going to spend $8 million just grading this whole site. And he says, that should tell you that we're full in on this. Then he says, you know, we want to build some housing up on the ridge to build some excitement and stuff. And then we might think about building a little bit of commercial after that. But he says, I just don't want to guarantee it. And I'm going, well, we're going to need something a little bit more stronger than you guys just saying, you know, you might do that.
You know, okay, so based on what Deborah just said there, do any of us have a problem with them building single family residential?
No.
I mean, I don't have a problem with anybody building single family residential. I mean, there's no drawback. Nobody's going to be angry about that. There's a need for it in this community. If they want to start with the single family residential, and at the end of 10 years, like Commissioner French said, that they are complete their total build out and they bring the commercial in after they build up their money through the residential, I'm fine with that. As long as they don't stray from it and you know, essentially try to pop up a bunch of stuff that wasn't in their initial proposal, I'm fine with it at this point. I don't know if I'm alone on that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Jerry?
I want to point out, when we started down this road, the thing that we didn't want to have happen is a bunch of apartments to show up.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the bar we set. We don't want to sell it and have 1,000 apartments show up and Meade School District get overwhelmed. And as Al said, we get sales tax off construction and we never see anything again. So I would just suggest that as long as we're sure that they're not going to build apartments, we should be less concerned with whether they get commercial built in there within, 5 or 6 years. The market's going to dictate what time the commercial comes in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with Jerry. As you know, if they want to start with the single family residential, like they suggested, as long as it doesn't morph in to a giant sea of apartments, I'm fine with it.
Well, they think that they're going to go through, because I told them Kendall Yards, and they said, you do realize that Kendall Yards is a very densely populated area. And he's saying that the shops that he is going to build, he's going to build apartments above it. He wants 3 stories for his commercial area, so that the 2 stories above the commercial are like condos up above. And so he's talking about a higher density area, but he wants cottages. He wants to put in townhomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so if you guys are okay with that as being your single family.
Right, because I think, when they presented to us, it was townhomes and all of that,
Brownstone homes.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing the retail with the apartments on above, but I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, you do have to have some density to it, and we're trying to get affordable housing, housing that people can get into. And there's a lot of people that, again, I think that's why we want some of the retail and stuff though too, because a lot of people want to have a place where they can just walk to what their need is. They can walk to a restaurant, they can walk to a grocery store, and that's what makes Kendall Yards, so successful. So I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, because when they bought the property, the current deed restriction that we were putting on it was that the percentages that had to be so many percentages. and they're still agreeing to that over time. It's just if they go out of business, they'll see goes defunct, they can then sell it to somebody else. But if their initial start is to put, you know, single family homes on it, I don't have a problem either. I just want to make sure that we still have that, at least, you know, an intent that we're trying to be good stewards for the community to have it have that percentage. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if we can't guarantee it for the future, we can't guarantee it for the future.
Did we want a time restriction though on the commercial? Do we want 10 years or
Have they indicated what they think their total build out schedule is?
They're saying that this year, I mean, would be grading. The next year would be trying to build some of those houses on the ridge. They're saying 8 to 10 years for total build out of the entire site. But you know, he's going to try to come up with some language for a deed restriction to give back to us by Monday. And maybe we should wait and see what they come up with to see if they'll restrict themselves enough that instead of just lifting all the restrictions, to see what they come up with.
They didn't give timing on the phases.
I'd be more inclined to do that and see what kind of creative approach they might come up with than to go ahead and walk away from it now. I mean, the difference of 3 more days isn't going to make a big difference in this big scheme of things.
I just, again, when we had our last meeting, please make it clear, Deborah, that we want this to succeed. We are
Yes.
not trying to put so many restrictions
Exactly.
or imply that we're working against them. We want this to succeed, and we don't want to bury them with restrictions to where they walk away.
Yep.
We don't want to.
Absolutely agree, Josh.
Yeah, we don't want to lawyer them out of the deal.
No.
So.
I
You know,
just,
Chad needs the money, you guys. He's been waiting for his money for a long time.
I'm sure it's been illegal for that.
Well, and you know, and I just, you know, if Deborah, if that takes one of us being on the phone when you talk to him next time, please let us know. But do not let these people walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to build what we're looking for. I mean, they want to do what we want. Please, you know, let's really push that to them. I mean, we want them to succeed.
okay.
Yeah, we don't make any money off of dirt. Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Gina can put you on the agenda for Monday afternoon. That way would give them till Monday afternoon to get something into us. And so, okay,
Okay.
very good.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. So,
I want to add that to after the consent agenda.
oh, for this afternoon.
Yes, please.
Okay. So that completes everything we published. Any miscellaneous items? General conversation? I got one if you don't have anything, or you're still thinking about one.
Were we going to talk about the GSI proposal?
Well, yeah, we can. Do you want to talk about it this morning or this afternoon?
Either way.
Yeah, so,
Afternoon, so I have more of a chance to take a look at it.
okay, well, how about if we just circle back after consent agenda and we can talk about it? I mean, there were a lot of words, not a lot of detail, and a lot of money. So
It was
my
2
guess
pages.
my guess is we're going to be looking for more detail and more description about what it is specifically they're going to do and how they want to spend the money. But I mean, it's a start. So,
Yeah.
but we can talk about it more this afternoon.
Are you going to have Alicia come and talk to us about it, or?
Well, I could reach out. Alicia said that she'd come in if we wanted to have her in here. But since it's really for multiple organizations and stuff, I mean, we almost need somebody, Mark Richard, Meg Winchester, and the GSI and stuff to come in and talk about the detail. But I guess I was thinking before we had them all converge on us, what is it that we specifically want them to provide for us? So I thought that's probably more a conversation for the three of us to say, okay, what's the detail about here? Because we're not going to get the detail and be able to talk about it this afternoon. But we can at least talk about what we want, and then have them come back on Monday and dedicate several hours to give each one of them time to make their pitch and give us the detail about how this breaks down. I was hoping that there'd be more detail to the presentation, but I mean, 2 line items with 2 big numbers and a lot of hope and trust. And not that I don't trust them, but I'd just really like to be more comfortable about what is it specifically they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That sound fair or not?
That sounds fair.
Yeah.
I would just want to make sure that we have, it's GSI, it's the joint chamber, so I want Lance there and Toby
Yeah.
up too.
Yeah, no, we'd have Tony and Lance and the guy from Deer Park and all of them. I don't think Deer Park was part of this package, but it's clearly part of our effort to try and do something that's countywide. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, we'd have all 3 of them in, as well as Meg and stuff like that.
Yeah, and no, happy to have the conversation then this afternoon on it.
Have either of you given any more thought to the ask from Second Harvest Food Bank?
I was fine moving forward with the ask,
Mhm.
taking out of their request what we've already allocated with regard to CDBG and stuff. But whether we needed to fund all of that today, now, as opposed to funding half of it now, and because it was so much per month over the next several months and stuff. So let's my idea was to monitor it and say 3 months, let's come back and say, do you need more or need less? But I was okay with moving forward with it.
Yeah.
Barry?
So,
Or Josh?
oh well. So I was roughly $1 million to start them, and then
Yeah,
the second $1 million in 3 months or something.
that's kind of what I was thinking, but that's just what I was thinking. I mean, that's whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, I guess I want to take a look at that a little bit more, just because, I mean, I was comfortable with the cold storage part of it, that was the 10,000 a month. And then it seemed, partly I want to, I want to get a sense of from these entities what the federal dollars they've already received. So that I don't know how much they've already received in federal, if they've received any or not. And I want to be Second Harvest, but we also have, Northwest Food Bank, I think is the other one. So I want to make sure that we're clear as to who, Second Harvest is the big one, but Northwest also is one of the food bank providers in our area as well. And so I don't want to get into giving to one and not, it's like I want to make sure before we go to a big dollar amount that we've looked at that. Because I know some of them fund different, pantries around. And I honestly don't know what all Northwest does. So that would be a question that if we could get Todd to answer that for us. I know Second Harvest is the big one, but it's not the only one. So that was kind of, I wanted to make sure, have they gotten federal funds and what is the other food bank doing?
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I was thinking about funding it in phases, because, what we know today is not going to be true in 3 months. It's going to adjust, and we don't know whether it's going to go up or go down, but I'd hate to commit to fully funding something that didn't need it, or that, there's going to be other money that's going to come to the table that's not there today. That's the other part of this equation. We don't know what the state's going to do when they finally convene in special session, if they do anything. And we don't know what the feds are going to do at the federal level as they work toward the election. So there's a lot of variabilities in this stuff.
Well, and it was interesting today when they talked about the EBT cards going up.
Right.
So that was interesting because that will put less burden on the food banks and it will, because they'll be using that at the grocery stores. So that was just interesting. I hadn't thought of that or put that together. So, I mean, I think, again, we just want to be making an informed decision, looking at the whole picture, to do the 10,000 a month, whatever it was, to get the cold storage so that they can get that going. I know Carrie because I know the health district was talking to Carrie too, it's on a reimbursement basis. So it's not like they just get the money and can do whatever they want. It's like they've got to come to us for we can say, here's your grant amount, and we'll reimburse you as it goes. So
Who is that, Mary?
Carrie,
No, who has to come back on a reimbursement basis?
The
the health
food,
district as well as-
Second
as
Harvest.
anyone that
when I talked to Carrie 3 weeks ago, she said we could just give the food bank, we could give Second Harvest money, that it did not have to be reimbursement.
well,
When I talked to her 2-3 weeks ago, that's what she said.
so probably this afternoon when we have the conversation, we may want Carrie in the room, even with the GSI, to make sure that we can, what we can and can't do.
Can you reach out and have Carrie here too?
And then we can ask her those questions.
All right.
Okay. It's so one way or the other, we're going to give money to the Second Harvest.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how much and when, and on what kind of routine and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know we're gonna, we're gonna give them some money. It's just, I don't want us to just, get this analysis paralysis where we just keep looking and looking and looking. I mean, eventually we know they need the funds. I mean, they've got lines a mile long of people in cars that need money, and they say they're that need food, and they said they're running short on food. I mean, I think it's something we need to eventually pull the trigger on here. So
No, and just like this morning, it's like, okay, we're going to look at it this afternoon so we can pull the trigger. I just want to make sure, we just got the presentation yesterday, and I want to make sure that we're looking at the other food bank, as well, and figuring. Part of it, we've got to figure out how do we, as things come to us, just because someone's come to us and we know there's a need, I think we still have to make sure that we've vetted it. I mean, that was the first time we've had, that in front of us. And so like I said, I'm happy to have the discussion again this afternoon. If that's what we're saying we're going to make a decision on, then that'll be top of my priority to look it over again.
Has anybody received an ask from the other food banks or pantries?
No.
I haven't either. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so it's partly, I think a lot of them are like, can they ask? Can they not? We haven't put anything out. I mean, I guess we've done the one, but I mean, Second Harvest didn't put into our spreadsheet. There was some other people. We would have to go back and look through that spreadsheet and see if other pantries were part of that.
Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean they didn't put into our spreadsheet?
So,
do you mean the online?
Right. So which food organizations put into that? I don't know.
I don't remember right offhand, but I mean, essentially that was to garner different ideas if we were missing anything. I mean, it was to cultivate ideas of ways to spend the money. It wasn't, I don't think that was necessarily the official ask for any of those organizations. What was it?
No, but we also never put out then saying, if you want some of our CARES dollars, you need to officially come and ask us. We haven't said that either. I mean, that's why I say we just need to look at the whole picture, because we did the ask to say, put your ideas into the spreadsheet, and I haven't seen, we would need to see what the sort was for, and go back and look at that for.
Yeah, so I think all of us had the same information. I don't have anything that the two of you don't have. So, so we'll have that conversation this afternoon about both of those items. And I'll see about having Alicia here this afternoon as well.
I wouldn't worry about it. If we're going to have them all come in, I'd have them all come in together. If we're going to just have a conversation, I mean, they're welcome to listen in, but I think then it's just us having the conversation as to what our thoughts are.
Yeah, so I'll deal that. I'll organize that for next Monday. We'll just have all of them come in and make their spiel. Okay, anything else? I've got one thing for you. Are either one of you happy, pleased, comfortable with the way the regional governance meetings are happening on Tuesday morning?
Policy group meetings.
Yeah, the policy group meetings at 8 o'clock.
Who's determining what the agenda is?
Well, there you go. That's part of the problem. And so initially, and what we've done in the other regional governance is that this is a conversation amongst the parties to the table, and we collectively identify what are the items that we want to talk about. We task Arian to get information to bring back for the next meeting. And so, but it is a conversation with all the people at the table. What we're doing on Tuesday morning is not a conversation. It's Chandra orchestrating presentations. And that's not regional governance. That's not us as electeds trying to scope out what it is that we want to do as we transition into the next phase or through this phase or and stuff. So I was going to say something this morning, and then I thought, no, I want to talk to the two of you first to make sure that I'm not overreaching or, but this is not regional governance. This is us being told by staff people what they want to tell us, and I'm personally frustrated with the way this is the way this is playing out. And Jerry, you've been in regional governance meetings before. I mean, am I out of bounds here? Or?
No, we're letting they're filling a void but we're not even asking them to fill the void. I don't understand why the policy group and the EOC has anything to do with each other.
Yeah.
This is not an EOC issue anymore.
Absolutely.
It's not an DEM issue anymore.
So,
and I think part of that problem is because, we ended those EOC briefings, the what was Monday through Friday, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we replaced it with this, but we hold it at the exact same place with the same people in that large room. And I think just a lot of the people think, oh, this is just a continuation. We're just down to only doing this Tuesdays.
Right.
I think a change of venue could help with this. I mean, again, like you just said, Al, the people around the table, but like that, there were more people on Zoom chiming in that aren't a part of the discussion that were speaking more than anyone else.
Well,
so,
I mean, when you look at the makeup of this committee, it's predominantly made up of electeds. And yet, in that meeting this morning, that room was dominated by staff people. I mean, the only electeds in the room was Shane, Mary, and me. I can't remember any other electeds in the room.
Ben Wick.
Oh, and Ben Wick. So 4 of us, there's probably, 16 people in the room, and 4 of us were elected.
And on Zoom, the electeds were in the minority of the people that were on Zoom. I was on Zoom, but there were a couple other electeds, but not by no means the majority were electeds.
Well, and this structure for this meeting is really geared around the Zoom and the old format, as opposed to a new format of us as electeds being able to have a conversation and stuff. So, so if you're okay with this, I'm going to try and push the format for these regional governance meetings to be more a conversation amongst electeds. The electeds will be at the table, and that other big room that's next to the auditorium, that'd be a great room. We could do the social distancing. We could have the staff people sitting at the wall, but the electeds at the table. and have it more of a conversation of the folks there. This is really supposed to be about electeds talking to electeds about how we move forward. And the fact that half the meeting, oh shoot, it was even more than that, was dominated by staff. That's not governance. That's presentations and stuff. But I don't want to get out in front of where you two might think that we should be. But if you're okay, I will push to change the format of this and take the heat.
Well, what you just explained there is what I thought the meetings were going to be. And like that, you know, when the meeting kicked off, the first remarks that were said was, I think this is going to be a very quick meeting today because we don't have a lot on the agenda. But it's like, we don't know how long the meeting's going to go because it's supposed to be a conversation. If the conversation spurs additional conversation and additional questions, like that's what's going to determine the length of the meeting, not how many presentations are queued up. So
yeah, and if it's supposed to be an idea exchange between all of us as electeds, guess what? We weren't the ones that were talking. Everybody else was and stuff. So there could have been a lot of great thoughts out of Ben or Mary or you know the others. And the other thing is that, you know, if the mayor and Wes don't want to show up, and if Mark doesn't want to show up for the city and stuff, great. You're not part of the conversation. But you know, sending staff to do electeds work is not the goal of regional governance and stuff. So I'll reach out to the mayor and Wes and say, hey, you want to be part of the conversation, you got to show up.
Well, and I thought originally a part of this was to really, you know, just have everyone kind of talking about CARES and what the thoughts were. You know, it's like sitting next to Tanya today. She said that the city has spent like $5.5 million already just on all the overtime and all of that they think you know, CARES related for COVID response. Which leaves them nothing, you know.
What you just said there, Mary, I heard that as well from a council member, that essentially of their 6.6, they've allocated about 5.5 on reimbursement for stuff they've already spent, and a lot of it is overtime.
Yeah.
So
you're
spot on. Nothing on the homeless, nothing on food, nothing on any of those other priorities of the community. They all spend it on themselves to make their job easier.
So, and then, you know, and like Shane, I didn't know that Liberty Lake had done, you know, had already purchased PPE, you know, and was doing that, you know, so to me, that's what this should have been, is so we'd say, no, don't do that. We don't want to double up, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, to me, that's part of what this conversation is supposed to be about. So that way, you know, because if it's going to continue to be a competition, then we're going to be, you know, in trouble. I mean, it's not going to be, we're not doing the best we can for our entire community.
So are you okay with me pushing to change the format so we can get it more to where it's a conversation of the electeds and change this format? I don't want to get out ahead of you.
It still has to be a public meeting though. So you still have, you know, whether it's Zoom or just a conference line that people can listen in.
Yeah, we can still do that.
Because we can't have a meeting, you know, since we can't have a face-to-face meeting, it still has to be available to the public to listen in.
Yeah, but we can control who comments, you know, and stuff. So, you know, we do this at SRTC, we do it at the STA, you know, so we can control who has comments in the meeting to just the electeds that are, whether they're on Zoom or at the table, we can control who makes the comments.
Well, I would say early on when you were switching, I mean, remember you told, you know, like Kevin Freeman, it's like, you can all still be here and you know, conversation. So just make sure that you're not being, I mean, that's part of what, you know, having the list of people who are voting, to me, it's a conversation. It's not a voting matter, but you know, to make sure that we're not being exclusive.
Well, in fact, I don't think in any of our regional governance meetings, we do vote. I mean, it's really a consensus model and stuff. And so everybody at the table has to go back to their legislative body to get affirmation and stuff. So even if you voted at the table, it doesn't mean anything because it's not binding.
But the agreement has a voting component to it. So that's what I don't know. That's part of why I've never liked the agreement, but that's
Voting does, the agreement doesn't have a voting structure to it. It's got a compensation to it, but not a voting structure. Anyway, so if you're okay, I'll try and push and change the format so it's more conducive to what we need as opposed to what we've got.
Yeah, because like today's meeting would have been much more valuable if we'd have gone around and asked the cities, you know, what have you spent money on, or what are your priorities? What are the things you're looking at spending money on? Because here's what we at the county are looking at spending on. And like Mary said, we don't want to double up. I mean, so, but you know, we didn't get that opportunity today with the way it was set up. You know, one of the things still that I would like to know is, of all the cities, how many of them are going to spend their CARES dollars towards rental assistance, and what are they hearing the need is? I had a phone call last night with Steve Corker from the Landlord Association, because he said, because he had signed that letter that we all got a couple weeks ago. And I asked him, I said, what is the need? How many folks are you seeing are not able to pay their rent because of COVID? And, you know, the stats he was giving me made it sound like it's not a huge increase above what their normal delinquency rate is on rent. Like it's a slight tick up, or he says, you know, they may get it a few days into the following month. But he was, I think he said March, April, and May. I mean, essentially, they're at the same percentage rate of folks paying on time as they have been pre-COVID. So it's like, you know, but he still said he thought the need was about 500,000 a month. But and I asked him, I said, well, how much of that 500,000 do you think is in the city of Spokane, and how much is somewhere other than the city of Spokane? And he said probably about 80-20. About 80% of that need would be within the boundaries of the city of Spokane, and 20 would be spread out amongst everywhere else as far as rental properties go. And if the city of Spokane's already 5.5 of their 6.6 million is spent, it's like, so they're not even, it's like, so are they not even going to consider pitching into something like that when the largest need is within their city boundaries?
I think their expectation is that we're going to cover all of that rental assistance. You know, everybody keeps on wanting to spend the 90 million. Then I keep on telling people, I said, well, you know, we've got regional issues that we've got to deal with that you guys aren't paying for. You know, the convention center, the PFD, the health district, and all these other things. They're not chipping in on any of that stuff. That's all coming back on us. So, you know, why would we solve your problem if you're not going to help solve ours? The idea is that, you know, the response is, well, you guys got more money. Well, you know what that sounds like. Anyway, it's, but I had the same conversation with Steve last night. And, you know, I told him, I said, you know, we've already allocated 146,000 for rental assistance. He said, well,
no, it's more than that.
It's more than that.
It was, yeah, I think it was like 430. I think, or
just over 400,000.
Yeah, I think Kathleen emailed us last night, and it was over
400,000 or 140. I got three numbers.
140.
You're right. It might be right. I might be confusing the numbers.
So
yeah, but I mean, over 400,000. And do we know? I mean, that's something. I mean, maybe I'll reach out to Kathleen when we get off the phone to see like what's the need been on that? How much of that has been drawn down? How many people are reaching out to?
Well, they haven't gotten those funds yet.
Well, but like how many people are reaching out to explore that possibility? I mean, what is the need? And we still don't have that, because I you know, I've talked to other landlords that have several properties, and I asked them, you know, how many people are not paying due to COVID, and you know, one of them who's a really big landlord said 0. They have 0 people who have not paid due to COVID.
So based upon the email we got from Kathleen, we have 146 for rental assistance. We have 465 for food bank and 146 for utilities.
No, that's
Now,
not,
that's not what she sent me here.
yeah.
Let me find it.
I had the 146 for food, 146 for utility assistance, and then the over 400 for rental.
Yeah, the 145, 644 for food assistance. That was 20%. And then so the same amount, 20% for energy assistance, and 436,933 for rent/mortgage assistance, which was 60% of the CDBG funds.
Yeah. And I guess part of what I want to be looking at is not just rental assistance, it's also mortgage assistance, because I mean, if we can keep people in their homes and not even get foreclosed, but that's got to be part of the discussion as well, not just rental assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I have a suggestion.
yeah, go ahead.
On the meeting, that changing the dynamics of the public policy meeting, which again, I think we need to move or I'm suggesting that you make sure you move it away from the DOC or the DEM, excuse me. We would want different facilitators / staff people, even maybe down to where Jerry's done a nice job of running the Zoom, maybe not have their staff running those regional meetings.
Right.
Well, so did we move it over to the health district?
If those groups want to have an update on what's going on in the virus, which I think you probably do, that's not a DEM issue. And maybe that, maybe changing the location out of the fire training center is a good way to do it.
And just have us, set up like we do for the board meetings. So, I mean, maybe that's what we do, is we try to switch it there.
Yeah.
The same format we do for law and justice as well. Everybody has a spectator at the wall, and those people part of the conversation at the table and stuff. So, well, I'll work on that between now and next week and see if we can change that format structure.
Okay, so when is the open public meeting relaxed, where we can all be in the same room?
Whenever the governor decides he's going to relax it.
I think right now it's up to June 17th.
Yeah, I think it's June
So let's
17th.
extend it.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
Well, but he'll extend it again.
Yeah, I assume it'll be extended.
Yeah, he'll extend it because the 3 big counties he's concerned about aren't even out of phase 1 yet. So,
Okay, because I just want to make sure, I'm just going to state this out there that, we're not all in the same room because of that order. And so, that's why Josh and I aren't down at the county and
right.
There's comments being made around that, since Josh and I aren't there, that, we're not at the county doing business. And I just want to make sure that people know that there's an order in place as to why we're not there.
So where is that coming from?
Yeah, nobody's told me that.
Yeah, I haven't heard it either.
I've heard it a couple of times, so I just want to make sure that everyone's clear that there's an order as to why we're not there.
Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from. It's not coming from me.
Okay. So, and I just want to make sure that, that's extended. And so when we come back though, everybody does need to be wearing masks in the room too, because I've had a couple employees say that, since you guys are close enough, you should be all wearing masks with the new order as well. So when we're all back, we're going to have to be, other than, it's my understanding for the county that when you're in your office, you don't have to, but in common areas, we're supposed to.
Yeah, we're not in common areas here, and we're all 6 feet apart. So, anyway.
Just letting you know, I'm getting comments from people, so.
It's hard to tell with the depth perception on the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, Jared is 6 feet away from me, and he doesn't want to be any closer. So, and this table's 6 feet wide, and so Jerry's not anywhere closer. All right. Well, then we will get reconvene this afternoon at 2:00 for consent agenda. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Bye.